Okay. Hey everyone. Hello. Thanks for waiting. Thanks for putting up with us. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh. It
that
doesn't.
was funny but horrible at the same time. Because
Yeah, it was.
literally the mic was telling me it was working. And then I'm like, oh yeah, but my computer's muted.
There's
So,
nothing quite like the panic of not having it work, you know.
no, and you're just like, okay, well, don't know what's happening. But anyway, it's Rake
Yay!
today. Yeah.
Welcome everybody. I'm very excited to talk about this one.
Need to mute it. Sorry.
That's
Yes.
okay.
Proposal.
All right. I saw Jen said to put your star ratings up there, so I'm going to go ahead and start throwing them up on the screen.
Yeah. Seeing some exciting ones. Woohoo!
4.5.
I didn't finish it, but as far as I've made it, it's a 4.
3, 4, 4. A lot of 4 stars. 3 stars. 4 stars.
Christy, you said 4.5 and 2. I'm confused by you. I have to explain that.
I wonder if she's talking about Lexi's, because Lexi's is the first one that I've seen that's a 2-star.
Oh, funny.
Okay.
Oh, it's a 2. Interesting to see why. That's fair. This, I would definitely say that Mary Balog has a style.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she definitely has a style. And if you're not in the mood for the style or how her romances go, this could be boring. It could be boring, and it could also be repetitive. So those are fair reasons.
Yeah. It's
no doubt of 5.
Stacy.
Well, what about you, Crystal? When did you even finish it? Crystal,
I finished it
today.
Yeah, I finished it today. I finished it just a few hours ago, and I gave it a 4-star. And I feel like a lot. Well, but it's a very high 4-star, so like a 4, 4.5. Like I really, really, really enjoyed it. Honestly, like I loved the hero. I love Mary's works though, and it's interesting that not a lot, but some of you are saying like you were saying, like her writing style is different. It's a lot different. And when I first read her, like it was before the Bedouins. I read one, and I was like, the very unpopular opinion, I was like, I cannot get into this book. Like it felt so slow and so boring, and I just wasn't prepared for her type of writing. But then when I like got into it, I was like finding all of these like just beautiful moments, and I was like, wow, okay. So I feel like you definitely have to be ready for that type of a read. Like it's not a fast-paced read. It's not a super steamy read, but I feel like it's just so beautiful, and I think that she does characters so well. Okay, I'm sorry. I will stop talking.
I mean, if anyone's going to say someone's talking too much, it's not going to be you. So you can talk as much as you want. No, I give it a 4-star as well. And when I look back at my ratings for this series, it's kind of funny because I have such fond memories of the series, and I gave them like all 4 stars, I think. Even though I'm like, I feel like I loved them so much. And I think I rated harder on historicals back then because, well, number one, like Julia Quinn and Eloisa James were my like gold star people, and everyone else was just like, oh, that was fun. But also I wasn't as freely just like, oh, everything's 5 stars. Whereas like now I'm a little more like that. I don't know. But yeah, this was 4 stars for me. And yeah, it absolutely is like all the comparisons to Jane Austen with her. I mean, I actually have like a list of things about that, but it really is like Jane Austen, but but more explicit. Explicit's the wrong word I want to use too, because it's not like it's explicit, but it's like Jane Austen where the doors open, and that's what I would say.
Yeah.
Like it's still not like erotic historical, which it doesn't need to be at all. But when I say Jane Austen explicit, I don't mean like explicit. I mean, it's It's still almost like PG-13, but like a little more.
And I feel like it's still it's so much more approachable than a Jane Austen too. Like I don't know. But and maybe that's why I love her so much, is just because it feels very Jane Austen-y, but it feels like a better story almost. Like I love Jane Austen, but
well, you get grittier with the characters, I feel like in Jane Austen, it's a lot of like you can dive down into the layers to have those conversations. I mean, that's why people have been talking about her for hundreds of years at this point. Whereas like with Mary, it's more the conversation for it's already like built into it. You don't have to like dig for it, and it has a lot of those same tropes of like, that was a bug, excuse me. It's warmed up. The box elder bugs are coming already.
I am waiting for them here. I hate them so bad.
Like last summer, they were so horrible. I would have to like vacuum when I got home from work every day to get the bugs. So sorry. One just is here and it just freaked me out a little bit. Anyway, there are a lot of the tropes that we see where like the unwanted like relations, the friend who is like the pity friend of someone else who just gets kind of like mistreated because not even purposely mistreated, but they're mistreated by like neglect almost. The very like starchy miscommunications. I wrote this down, like there's miscommunication in here, but it's the understandable miscommunication because that's just how they are. Like the way that she writes her story, you believe that they're not just going to spill their guts to each other right away, even though you're like, literally you're in love with him and literally you're in love with her and that it doesn't happen, but I'm not mad at them for not just like, but I love you, like when he proposes to her, he's like, my sister. Yeah, I need to marry you because of my sister, not because, and our sexy time was great. Like, let's get married. So he very much has a Mr. Darcy proposal to her and just fucks with that. Like, I love that. Because he's like, yeah, we should get married. And she's like, why? But really, it's because he's fascinated by her and he's totally enchanted with her. And she's saying no because he's saying it's for my sister when she's like, I'm totally in love with him and I'm not going to marry him for his sister. Like, I'm not going to do that. And you're just like, no. But anyway, I just totally jumped ahead of everything while people were sharing their ratings. But that's just what I loved about it is that, yeah, there would be parts of where it's boring, but there's so many layers to the characters and the pieces that you're picking up that if you're engaged in it, there's just so many like emotional politics going on.
That is a perfect way to put it, emotional politics, because like I know a couple of you like said that they were kind of a little bored, and I was bored her first book that I read because I wasn't expecting that. It felt like work to read it, but
right. That's a great way to say it.
But once I got to like she does characters so well. And I think the reason that I love how she does her characters is that it's very like slow, very layered, a really gradual unraveling of who they are and getting to their issues, which are never like, even if they are like a little over the top in theory, like it never feels like that, like everything that she writes, I feel like feels very grounded in reality. And I think that could be off-putting for some people too, if they want more of a fantastical aspect to their romance, because it just feels so realistic.
Yeah.
Some of you don't have video.
What?
Is that still an issue? I've seen 2 comments that said the video is not working.
Uh-oh.
But they can hear it.
That's strange. I don't know why the video would be having problems. That's a whole nother.
Yeah, it says we're live. I don't know that there's anything else I can do to fix it.
Let me see. I don't know. I see us. How do I mute myself? Because I have this up for the comments on my phone, but I think it's showing us. So I'm sorry if it's not working for someone. Maybe reload the page if you're not seeing us, because I'm seeing us on.
Yeah, I can see us too.
So
Okay,
I'm
I
sorry
just
what's
checked.
happening. But
Sorry. Wow, we've had a lot of issues tonight. I'm
yeah,
so
but
sorry.
yeah, maybe you just need to reload the page. Try that one. But yeah, it's definitely a style. And I will say she does have that in a lot of her books, but even in this series, because like I have like there's even more going on in other books in this series too. There's definitely I feel like I've read a lot of her heroes in a row that are kind of the same, very like buttoned up about it. But she definitely has ones who aren't. Like Vincent, the young guy that's going blind, he's almost completely blind. Like he's a very like funny, lively character. His book has a lot like going on in it. But this one was just there's so many characters. Like Crystal and I were thinking about that. There not only do we spend time with all of the survivors at the beginning because she basically accidentally crashes their semi-annual survivors club meeting, but then there's all the people, there's the person she was staying with, and then when we go to London we meet his family, and so there's just like there's so much. Yeah. Oh, the audiobooks are the best way. I mean, not
I
the only way.
love the audiobooks too.
Best way. So
So
good.
this is an interesting. So Lexi, it wasn't so much that it was slow burn, but I was bored. I felt like there was nothing interesting happening, and I think that's where it gets really like granular into your reading taste. You know, because I would agree with you that there really isn't like every time I think about explaining a Mary Bellog book, I'm like, what exactly happened in here? I don't know, but I can tell you how they all felt.
There was a house party, and there was a lot of them sitting in retiring rooms. I can't remember what the names of things are. And yeah, it's definitely a style of historical, because I would say there are a lot of historicals where there's not anything happening.
Yeah,
Like
that's true.
you're at home with your family, you're going for a drive in the park, you're at a ball, like you're not doing a lot. That's entirely, an entire series of books. So, but we've definitely read a lot where there's a lot of things happening. So this may just not be a style, because that is her books. Like I can't think of any of her books that have adventures happening in them. They're pretty much all house parties where people get together, or maybe it gets feisty and there's your carriage breaks down, or you're grave robbing. Like maybe that gets thrown in there sometimes. Like there's some interesting things, but usually it's it starts with maybe an incident. Like this one was she hurt her ankle, and he rescues her, and then she's stuck there. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm talking
But
about.
I love that so much because I feel like that's my favorite. Like what Justin says right here, I can see people being bored because the plot is mostly internal emotions, attraction, class difference, personal trauma, hesitation for change, and I found them really resonating. And Justin, that is the perfect way to explain how I feel about this book. That is everything that I love about her writing in this book specifically, just all wrapped up right there. Like everything about it. It just like I hate to say it feels real because it's still like we want to read and escape, but I feel like it's so relatable to everything that they're experiencing. I feel like we can relate to that, even like the class difference thing. It feels very like it just hits me. I don't know. I really can't 100% explain it, except for Justin just did it for me right there. That's what I love about it. Justin, when are you going to start a YouTube channel, by the way? Thank you very much.
Justin, come on, man. Come on, man. We need the men on the romance book too. You don't even just read romance. You can talk about all. It'd be great.
Yeah, I'd love to hear you talk about thrillers,
Justin. I did think I'd heard Neville's name before. Where are Neville and Gwen? Aren't they the ones? Like, you've read all the Bedouins. When's Neville in there? I feel like I've heard the name, and I've only read 2 of them.
I don't think he's in there, but again, I am very bad at names, so I don't know if I'm 100% on that. But I think I would remember a Neville, and I don't remember one. But.
Yeah, I think he's someone's brother, though, that there's another sister, and Gwen is like, she's married when that happens. And then, then it dies. I don't know. I'll have to look it up. She has so many characters, and she's an author too, where like pretty much everyone's connected in all of her series, because like this series leads into that series, and so they end up with 50 books where the characters' names have showed up in other books because the author's been writing for 40 years and all of her characters are related. So I can't, like all 35 of Julia Quinn's books are related, and then even some of Eloisa James's books are related to Julia Quinn's books. So good freaking luck. Okay. Anyway, let's talk. Let's bring up someone who's controversial.
Okay.
Let's talk about Fiona, his stepmother.
Oh, gosh.
She is interesting.
She is interesting.
You have a very particular feeling about her at about 50% in. And then I felt totally different for her by the end of the
book. That is 100% how I felt too. Yes, totally.
Fascinating. Like, literally, Fiona's the reason that he joins the army. Mm-hmm. Because she, like, halfway molests him, basically.
I know. Like,
and we have I was like, wow, I hate her. And then we like see her and her family, and like literally the woman is like having a psychotic break. Like, I don't say that lightly. She's literally having like a crisis. And he like reconnects her with her family and like just helps heal that. Like, I thought that was so interesting, but I wanted to talk about maybe what some people thought, because she is someone who very easily would have just been seen as like a sleazy stepmother. And by the end of it, I was like, wow, what a character arc for this, who could have been a one note, that could have been her only plot point, was to like chase him away, and ruined his relationship with his dad. Like, he did that so that his dad's relationship with her wouldn't be ruined. He ruined his relationship with his dad. Like, it's so interesting.
It is. Okay, Linda answered this. I figured Linda would probably know about Neville. They're in prequels. I haven't read the prequels yet. So.
I have those, but I haven't finished the bed ones either, but I have the prequels. The prequels to the bed ones. Okay.
And I thought that it was so interesting that was, I'm sorry, hold on. Cough attack.
Okay.
It was so interesting that was why he joined the military, because especially when you saw like how gentle he was, like nothing other than something that was like, like this or any alternative to that. Like, he had to join. It was just, words are hard right now, but I loved how that was the plot device for getting him to join.
Yeah.
Because you could tell that there was really nothing other than something that just made him just feel sick that was going to make him do that.
So well, gentle. The words are too, like, he was crying. Like, because he was like, there's nothing else I can do. Like, it literally says, like, he was aroused by her, and then he went and, like, cried because he was, like, felt so horrible about it, and then was like, I can't stay, I'm leaving. And he broke his dad's heart because of it. And so I was like, wow, I hate this bitch. Like, I hate her that she did this. But then, like, you see the layers to her, and you see that, there's no like reason to like blame his dad, but she wasn't feeling like loved by him. She felt like she didn't want to be in this relationship. She has this hot stepson, so maybe it's like, maybe I can get something out of that, which is totally wrong. Like, very bad. Very. Who knows what it was, if it was just a moment of like weakness in her, or, because he doesn't say that it was like a prolonged like thing from her. Like, this was like, she made a move and then he was like, bye. Mm-hmm. And then, I don't know, by the end of it, she was just this really broken, sad lady.
Yeah.
Who is like on the edge of like suicide, basically. And he reconnects her with her family. I don't know. I really liked it.
Okay, let's read some of there are some. Yeah. I don't think anyone felt like she was. Okay, here's Lexi's. Didn't understand the insta forgiveness.
Well, I don't think it was insta, because it's been how many years, and now his dad is dead. So that's why I would say I don't think it's insta forgiveness. I think he was over it after what, he just had never said that to her.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But that just shows like Hugo too, like something about Hugo. I mean, we've been all over the place tonight, everyone. Sorry, we're just jumping everywhere. But like Hugo is such an interesting character. Like, I know now I'm like, Hugo, the first person we should talk about is like, he's so blunt. He's very like right to it. You know, like he tells her, he's like, I liked having sex with you. That was nice. And so we should get married. Just very like, it was nice. And like, but he's so like grumpy, and he like hides so much of it. And, you know, he has like, because did you take it, like I took it he was having panic attacks. Like panic attacks was kind of his PTSD, right?
Yeah.
Because they all like, you know, as you'll read the series, like they all have different levels of PTSD and they have different ways it comes out. Some of them actually have physical injuries and some of them have like both. But for him, like he was having panic attacks, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of whatever.
That's what I would say.
I just love all of them. Anyway, so what about Gwen? We should talk about Gwen because I feel like we haven't even talked about the main characters.
I know, we're just.
So I like Hugo. But how about Gwen? Because
I honestly, I felt so much empathy for Gwen once we found out what happened with her husband. Honestly, like. I just wanted her to just hug her. I can just imagine like the guilt that she carried about that and how that affected like her entire life. Just, oh my gosh. And like everything that like she had gone without with her husband, like that moment when they're about to like have sex and she's like, well, we're going to take your clothes off. I've never been unclothed in front of a man. And I was just like, it was just heartbreaking. I loved her. I think she's one of, I don't know, Mary does heroines really well, and I felt like Gwen was just, I loved her. I just loved her so much.
Yeah. Yeah, she's so interesting. Like, one of the things that is hard, that was kind of like awkward in this one too, is like, I see that attraction has been laid, but also the chemistry wasn't very like sparky to me. Like I know it's there, it's written on the page as there, but even like the first sex scene, like when they're down, you know, they're down by by a pond, the lake or the oak, wherever they're at, and like she's like, oh, we're gonna have sex right now. And he's like, you know, you could say no, and she's like, I mean, I'm not gonna say no, I'm not a tease. That's literally the romantic moment between them. Like I went back to look it up and I was like, wow, that's almost like, wow, that doesn't feel very sexy. But then like between them, they have this beautiful scene and he goes back to the house thinking like, wow, that was better than I thought it was going to be. Like, it's not very, you know, it's not very like passionate, but it also was like impulsive at the same time. So it's like, am I supposed to, and I feel like too, that's that kind of like Jane Austen writing where like, you're supposed to like, I don't know. You're supposed to be swept up in this, but also it's not written very romantically. It's written more like clinically, even though it's a pretty like sexy sex scene too. I have so many confused feelings because I'm just like, I don't know. And then like they leave that and she's like, I need to leave because I just really liked him. Mary does that a lot with characters where like they have a moment of feels and they're like, I gotta get out of here. And he's very like, you know, he has to be the one to put her in the carriage to leave, make sure she goes. And then he immediately is like, yep, I'm gonna go to London. I need to go propose to her immediately. That's what I need to do. And I'm just like so confused. Anyway.
Okay, let's share Tiffany's comment. A couple of people.
Yeah.
I also loved how she advocated for her late husband on that show.
Yeah.
Yes. Totally agree about that.
Yeah. Gwen was, well, and then like, I mean, this book is called The Proposal. You know, I really love, he goes there, he makes this. And I love that she turns him down and he's like, yeah, of course. She's totally going to say no. I don't know what I was thinking. And then he's like, but like, why? Why can't you marry me? Like, I don't get to turn me down. And then she's like, no, how about you court me? And maybe you'll come to your senses by the end of it. And the whole time, let's talk about the whole 50% of the book where he's courting her, he's like, I'm definitely not going to marry her. No. But I'm going to get a new carriage so that I can ride her around real good.
Yeah.
No, I'm definitely not going to propose again. She's just taking my sister around, but I'm definitely good. Like, that's definitely a quality of like Mary Balog too, of just the denying your feelings till the very last minute of all of it. I don't know. She does that.
I loved how his sister, when he was watching Gwen with his sister, I loved how much of that, like, I love it when this happens in any type of romance, when that makes the hero, like, see the heroine and realize he has feelings for her by the way they treat, like, his little sister. Like, I just thought that was so great.
Yeah.
Did a good job. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, for her.
Oh, this was Melissa's comment. I didn't see that one. Yeah, totally. It definitely sounded like that.
Yeah. That's so heartbreaking. It's like so sad.
Yeah.
So tough. But also, literally, what would you do? Like,
yeah,
he would have ended up in a madhouse or, something else. Like, bipolar is scary. I have a younger cousin who has that. And when we were young, like, it could switch on a dime. And it's not all like people who have that disorder, it's not always that they're between like rage and something, like that's not always the other end of it, but hers was, and it would be scary. Like, we'd be playing and then all of a sudden she'd be pissed by something you did and like punch you. And it'd be like, okay, what did I do? And I can't imagine that of like, where, you don't have a doctor to ask about that. And if you did, it might end them in a scary place, There's always got to be that sleazy best friend or was he a cousin, his best friend? I don't even remember what this. The narcissist friend. Okay. Yeah.
I did really like when, towards the end, when she finally like was talking with Hugo about her husband and everything. I felt like I just loved how Hugo was like, well, it wasn't your fault and it wasn't his fault, like he was sick, which I thought was just really great to see that in a historical. And I don't know that they would have had that level of awareness at the time, but I loved seeing that in here.
Well, and that's also, though, I think the reason he does is because of Survivor's Club. Because you'll see that if you read further into the series, like, Sir, what's his name? I wrote him down. I wrote down everyone's names, everybody. George, Duke of Stanbrook. Because I believe with him, it isn't him who was in the war. It was he lost a son, I think, if I'm remembering it. And all of these, people that he brings together, he wants to make sure that they, that doesn't happen to them. Please correct me if I was wrong, you guys, because it's been a long time since I've read George's book. I read George's book a long time ago. But that's kind of how he, got all of these 6 people around him that they check in with, is that they each have something else wrong with them, but it's almost that, wounded warriors who end their lives because of depression or because of this. And he didn't want that to happen to those people, even though that's not a term, that's not a thing. They call it, like the distress of war or whatever it's called. They just know that it's something. They know that it's something. They don't know what it's called or have names for it, but whatever that depression was, he knows that a way to combat it is to have people that share the experience with you that you can talk to. And so the Survivors Club is that like safe space, what we would call it, that safe space.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what makes, I know that's what makes Hugo able to, hear what she's talking about and realize like, oh, that's exactly what we deal with. Even though her husband didn't have like PTSD, it's still something that's in your mind, not something that is your fault.
Yeah.
And so, and in his blunt way that he's able to talk about things, he's able to just be like, well, that's dumb that you think it's your fault. Like, why do you think that? Like, neither one of you, that's not your fault, So, really interesting. Were any of the I know it's really mostly explained in the prologue, but are there any of the other Survivors Clubs people are interested about the most based on?
I think so. There's this one, the one with the dead wife.
I think is that George? Lexi, you know? I have their names all written down, but I don't remember who lost who. It's either Ralph or George.
And then Warda said this one, the one that's blind.
Yeah. So Vincent's the one that's blind. Yep. That's book 2. That one's a good one.
I definitely want to read that one. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Flavian, he has a speech impediment as well as some PTSD. His was the first one I ever read. So I have a real soft spot for Flavian. I love that one. It's my first Mary Ballog book that I ever read. Well, maybe that's not true, but it's the first Survivors Club I read. Who knows? Imogen, she watched her husband be tortured and killed. They were spies. They were undercover. And she watched him be tortured and killed. And then Sir Benedict, he's the one with, he is partially paralyzed, so he has to use 2 canes to walk. That's book 3. And then Ralph, I don't remember. Maybe he's the one who lost his wife. I don't know. I can't remember if he had PTSD or what his was. But I wrote them down. But I remember that Benedict's was a really powerful one too, because that was the first historical I ever read where someone had a physical injury. It wasn't blind or death. It was he is partially paralyzed and they don't know if his man parts will work for part of it. So that was the first time I ever read that in a historical. So it was amazing. Yeah. They're so good, Warda. They're so good. If I didn't have a bazillion books to read, I want to reread all of them, but I just can't. Yes, I think you should read them in order. I was asking who's people's favorites are, because it's like any interconnected standalones, they build off of each other. So, But yes, yeah. Vincent's number 2. Vincent has a matchmaking mama. All the good ones. But it's because she wants someone who's basically going to be his caretaker, because she thinks he can't do anything because he's blind. And he's also very young. He's the baby. Because he had made it into the army way too young type of thing. So he was fighting way too young. But anyway, what about this younger sister? What did you guys think of Constance? I thought she was so sweet.
She was very sweet. Does she show up again, or do we see this couple again in the other books? Do you remember? Does anyone remember?
I mean, we always see them, but I don't remember if Constance gets with anybody, because maybe that's in another. So many names.
That's what these two just said too.
Yeah. I don't think she gets a whole book, because I don't think she's paired with anyone. Because when I just looked through, I don't think she was paired with anyone. But that doesn't mean she's not in another Mary Ballog book, because she keeps people around. I just don't know. Off the top
she has written so many books, Mary has. It's very impressive. I don't know. I love her books, and when I read the Bedouin Saga, I immediately was okay, I'm going to dive into this other series, the Sickly series, I think.
Yeah.
And then I started it, and I was having a hard time paying attention, so I'm okay, maybe I need a break. But yeah. I think if you vibe with her writing style, then she's fantastic.
Yeah. She's as I've said, she's someone I need to have the mood for now, just because it's so much slower than what I usually like Lorraine Heath. Her books are much faster moving. So if I'm going to binge a series of hers, I can just keep going. Stacey, some of her series, she does have the character maps in the front. The Westbrook series, there's literally a 2.5-page family tree in each of those. So those have the family tree. But they're a family, so it's easier to do. It's hard to do a family tree when the people aren't married to each other. But okay, Linda, thank you. I didn't think that she did, but
Sometimes
And
I forget to unmute myself. I'm so smart.
I think since Constance will probably be with that guy,
Yes, I know. Like, ooh.
I don't think they would give her her own book for that. That's one of the side characters where you're like, they're going to be together. It's great. So, you know. But yeah, it was just, this is one of the ones, guys, like, I'm really glad we read this because this brought me a lot of nostalgic feelings. But it's also, there's not a ton to pick apart. You know, it's one of those where, like, there's lots of nuance to this story. I love them wooing each other. I love the dates, like dates, the courting outings, and, you know, yeah, I just love that in her books. And I love the second proposal too, where it's just like, yes, they are like
very much
freaking Warda. That's all there is.
Yeah.
These characters. Yeah.
And I feel like, you know, like Lorraine Heath, she does have a ton of sexual tension in her books, like so good. Literally, and I feel like I think one of the reasons that Mary really hits for me so well is because I want it to not be super obvious a lot of the time. Like, I want to be able to see it build up, and that's exactly what you get with Mary's books. And not that Lorraine Heath does it super obviously, you know, like I feel like there's authors who do it, like hit you over the head with it and it's just like, okay, that's enough. And then there's like very, very, very slow building. But I don't know, I feel like her books are so romantic, like every little gesture, like, and there was a comment way back about how I was going to highlight it, but we were moving past it. It was about how she really shows you what, when characters try to like really hard do the right thing, that's like super important to them. And I feel like that sense of like chivalry is so totally apparent in her heroes, like in Hugo, like in all of her heroes I've read, like they so badly want to do the right thing above all else. And like, I mean, even if you have like a Rake character, it's not like a Lisa Kleypas Rake, you know?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah. It's just a different type of nuance. And like, I don't know, I just totally love it.
Yeah. I mean, and it still has that, like, so the feeling of in the 2005 Pride and Prejudice.
yeah.
When there's the long walk across the field.
Oh my gosh.
That's the kind of feeling that you have when it's finally time for us to say that we love each other in one of Mary Balog's books, because we've been dancing around it. We've been feeling it. We've had all our missed opportunities, and you just can feel like the music swelling and it's all right there. And then all there is just like, it's just a little kiss. And you're just like, oh, and you're just ready to die.
That's
ready to die.
That's it. Exactly. Because like,
it's so beautiful to get to it, but it's not a big, you know, it's not a big thing, but it's just like, we are both at the place where we have laid all the cards on the table and we're willing to just say, I love you at the same time, you know? And that's a good thing still, you know?
It is.
So.
And I feel like the 2005 Pride and Prejudice was so much better than the book, honestly. Like, I feel like it was so much better. Like, that was what I wanted the book to feel like. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it just didn't. The book didn't hit me like that. And so I feel like Mary's, a lot of books hit those same feelings that I'm looking for in book form. And I just love that so much.
Yeah. I had it's funny. Like a couple years ago, I had found these gorgeous copies of Pride and Prejudice, and I bought 3 of them, and I annotated them for friends as a gift. And so there was a week in December where I read Pride and Prejudice 3 times in a week, because I was mostly highlighting the same stuff. But it was a very sassy reread when I was rereading it at that. Like, the book felt sassy to me. Like, I'm sassy all the time. But, like, I was reading it and just picking up on all the things, because now as, like, a person in, 25, 26, when I was doing this, I I've read a lot more historical now. I've read a lot more literature from then and now. And I don't know, like the humor in it just came across so much more.
Oh, yeah.
And also in the book, like it does give you more peeks at Darcy than you think. Like I did not remember those moments from when I read it when I was 13, 14, 15. Like I didn't remember the moments where we do get a flash at like what he's thinking about something, you know? And that just adds so much more layers to everything because he'll be like thinking these things and then he gets this reaction from her. And so he's like, ooh, what am I not like getting? You know, and there's that's, I feel like exemplified even more in what Mary Ballog writes because it's not just little flashes. Like we spend chapters with the hero where they're just talking themselves in circles of like, oh, I really want to like sleep with her. So maybe I would want to marry her because like sex is going to be really important to me because I'm not going to cheat on my wife. So I should find someone I want to bang all the time. Like he's literally talking and he's like, yeah, but she's not the right type of person. So maybe I don't. So maybe I can't. Can I just sleep with her now until I find like he literally talks himself in these circles about it. And you're just like, yeah, you're just a messed up little boy. Right. And so it just makes him very endearing because some of the things they'll think are like very shocking where you're like, wow, that's really rude of you. But then he's just so sweet at the same time. So I don't know. Those are just all like the feelings where you kind of are just like, oh, you're such a sweet idiot. Like you're just such a sweet idiot in in a nice way. I know idiot is not a nice word, but like that's how you feel it. You know, like you know what I mean? Like, and then with her where it's just like her marriage was so devastating to her, you know, because she cared about this person, but it was like pins and needles all the time. And so it's like, I'm not willing to put myself into that if this person doesn't love me. And meanwhile, he definitely, if he doesn't love her at that moment, he would absolutely be in love with her if they were married. Like it wouldn't take much at all. But for her, she's like, I need the proof up front. Like I need the proof up front. And he's like, but can't we just get married so that we can be banging and then it'll happen? Like that's like how I read this. And she's like, no, I think you're gonna need to buy me some flowers and drive me, you know. And he's like, okay. I just wrote a totally different book. Wasn't my book so much fun? Anyway, thank you all for reading the Mary Ballog with us. I'm very happy, and I hope that you all read the whole series because it's really good.
It was so fun.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Kept going back. Yeah, I
did. You did do that. He seems like such a jackass in the beginning because you limp. What were you doing down here? You have a limp.
And then it just turns into this joke between the two of them, and
right. And other people are kind of like, "Why are you saying that?" And I'm like, you know, I mean,
yes, Linda, we're talking about Hugo now.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Hugo definitely would call it out. But like I said, he was very blunt. He did not have like a filter at all. And I think part of that comes from like he did not want to be a sir. You know, he didn't want to be a sir. So he's like, if you're going to knight me and make me be a sir for something that I'm not even proud of, I'm not going to change how I act. Like, I'm going to keep being like this. Like, he gave me a title. Great. I don't want it. So I'm not going to fit to it, you know, because he definitely doesn't act like he's of them. He's like, I just want to, like, be a farmer. You know, I want to deal with this stuff. So, like it. But yeah, anything we forgot? We went all over the place, but spice in this was pretty low. I only gave this one 1.5. But that's Mary Ballog. She doesn't usually get above a 2. That's okay.
Well, all right. Anybody? Should we? No. Linda, you don't have to apologize. I'm so sorry. It's just been a crazy night. I was late getting here, and so I didn't have time to test to see if everything was working.
Yeah. And my computer was muted, so I kept making Crystal like restart it. And
it's usually my problem technically, so that's why.
Well, because mine always works, and the little mic said I was on, but the computer was muted, not StreamYard, so that was my fault. But that is a good point that Terry Lame brought up, though, about the horse, because they're like, does she know she was pregnant and she got on the horse?
Yes.
That horrible, horrible thing. Which
true.
I was like, that's a really harsh statement for him to make. But I also was like, he has this, you know, that's a lot where the Pride and Prejudice themes came in too for me, was because he was like, she's just a spoiled rich widow or a spoiled upper class widow, and she would risk her unborn child riding a horse, you know, like he's very quick to judge into that. Was this one where she thought she couldn't have did she think she couldn't have a baby because of this?
Yeah, she did. She did think that, but then it was never really addressed.
Right. Well, doesn't he question it? Someone questions it of like, why would you think that?
Yeah,
because I thought I had a trigger warning. I thought I had a trigger warning that I know I had it for loss of pregnancy, but I couldn't remember if she thought, because like that's something in historicals I don't love, where they assume infertility. I'm like, literally, how would you know? Because you haven't had sex with anyone since your husband and since you lost your baby. And people just assume from a miscarriage that they can't have a baby again. And so then it's like, you have to have an heir. So like, we can't do that. Like, oh my gosh, I read that so often.
Yeah, it's so often used, and it's tricky.
Yeah. That's because I remember when I was reading it, I was like, well, because I think the reason why I'm like sensitive to it is we have some friends who don't like the miracle baby trope. Yeah. I love miracle baby trope. I love miracle baby trope, so it doesn't bug me. But when someone assumes they're infertile and then they have a miracle baby, I'm always like, that's not a miracle baby. Like, I mean, it's a miracle. Every baby's a miracle, but it's not a miracle if you weren't trying at all. And then you have one. So anyway, I think that's why I remember being like, why are you assuming infertility? You have not tried. You have not done that. But yeah. And I also think, well, because I know like she didn't seek a second opinion. I also think she wanted it as a punishment. So she's self-imposing that I'm infertile because I lost this baby. And like he's like, he thought she was irresponsible. She also thought she was irresponsible. So she's like, I guess I don't deserve to have a baby, so I'm infertile. And I'm like, okay. Big leap. But anyway, yes. The doc is why you limp and why you think you can't have kids. Yeah. And again, Hugo's bluntness, he's telling her, he's like, it's not your husband's fault. It's not your fault. Your leg isn't your fault. Like, stop self-blaming. Like, the reason she lets her, is it her friend or her cousin, whoever, why she lets that person treat her like shit is because she is self-punishing herself for all of it, you know? I love that. Yeah, Monica, I love Miracle Baby. I love Miracle Babies, but I get it if people don't. I get it if people don't. But I also don't like when people, again, I don't like when people assume that and then they get pregnant and they're like, it's a miracle. And I was like, you've had sex one time. The last time. So I'm like, you haven't actively tried to have a baby at all. So anyway.
Well, should we talk about our next book?
Yeah, they're already spoiling it. I mean, it's not a spoiler. It's out already. But
yeah, I didn't bring mine in here because, I was late anyways, but
it's okay. Just this cover. It's too shiny, but
so beautiful. I'm so excited to read that one.
Me too. Does this one have an audiobook?
I did not look.
I mean, we said for Beverly Jenkins we don't care if it didn't, but I think it must, because
I think it has to. Yeah.
We wanted to only pick ones that had audio, so I feel like we would have. This one's 1997. Okay, good. Well, I think most of hers do. There's a few that don't, but this one, guys, I don't even read the back of this one. I don't know. I don't care. I'm ready to read more Beverly Jenkins. So let's go.
I was just thinking I was kind of like had a hankering to pick up one of her books.
Well, hanker this way. I love both of their last names, everyone. Her name is Kate Love, and his name is Dick's Wild Horse. Well, good for you, Justin. You can still, we enjoy your spicy feelings about it.
We do. Justin, you're not going to hurt our feelings. But if you don't want to read it, that's fine. Yeah. I love your comments, Justin.
Yeah, like when you read Indigo, we needed to have some contradicting opinions. So it's needed. Otherwise, we just look like a bunch of, fangirls around here. Yeah. So, but Justin. Yeah, I've Justin, we adore you. So don't hold back for us. But if you don't want to read it because you don't want to read a book you won't like, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. But very excited.
On any play. Warner and
yes.
Okay, good.
Girls, you're amazing. I'm very excited. I'm gonna try to wait a little longer this time because I gotta tell you, I read this book too early for it to be such like a calm book, because literally today I was like, I don't remember anything. And I remember it, but that's why Crystal reads it the day before, you guys. So she can remember. And it's not even a joke. It's for real. Overlaps her plots. Yeah.
She does.
Lexi, I want to read so many more, but I'm always like psych myself out. But I mean, she's batting 100 for 100 out of her, whatever, because I loved the only book I've read so far. So I know his name is Dick Wildhorse and her name is Kate Love. I mean, it's meant to be. Okay, it's meant to be.
That comment Cherry Lime made, that's just cracking me up.
I know. I literally was like, just look at the back, because I haven't even read the blurb. I was just like, she was like, let's do Topaz. And I'm like, yes. Do not need to explain. But yeah, no, I'm reading the back.
Topaz is one of those that is often talked about with Beverly Jenkins. I feel like you always hear about Indigo and Topaz. It feels like Topaz is right behind it. So
they're literally both colors. I just realized that. Didn't know that. Is this her first book?
No, her first one is that one I read.
Night Song. Yeah. Well, this Avon doesn't have her other ones in it. So was this the first one with Avon then? Because I don't know. Usually they put, for author by her, but these have other authors' names in them, which is very interesting. Anyway, I'm super excited. The live show for that one is...
I just had it pulled up too.
I made
April 21st. I beat you.
I made a pretty little flat lay for it this time.
You did.
Sweet. So yeah, that was cool. Thanks everybody for coming to our Hot Mess Express.
Yeah, thank you for putting up with this.
Nope, go ahead.
I was just going to say that something that I've really loved about our live shows in the last few months is how much discussion is happening in the chat. And I feel like I love how we get talking and then we see a comment and then that takes us all to where we're talking about something else. So even if we are all over the place, I feel like all of your input is so valuable. And I just really love, even if I loved it and you didn't, or I hated it and you loved it, like it's a good time. I love it.
Right. Well, I mean, some of these are very polarizing and sometimes we're just like, oh, that was nice. And so, what other people pick up is always great. I mean, Warda, that's what I live in, is a Hot Mess Express. So
yes, very much.
We roll with it. So organic. Yes. I love it. I mean, we should mention who's ready for Bridgerton next weekend. What?
I didn't even realize it was coming up that fast. I swear.
I just filmed, it'll go up next week because I wanted to go up right before 5 scenes that I want to see in there. And then I'm basically not doing anything next weekend between, because I don't want anyone's opinions to interfere with me. So I need to watch it and film everything. So that'll be great. I'm super nervous, guys. I'm super nervous. Don't hurt my babies anymore.
I want them to be hurt. I want them to be hurt, and then I want them to be happy.
But don't change my stuff. That's
that's true.
They're gonna suffer. That's fine. Suffer away, but that's my close to my favorite book. But yes, they are doing an Instagram. That's just gonna be too much hotness in one live show. Like,
Yeah.
Warda, that's okay. You'll be able to go right into season 2 then. Season 2 is going to come out, and then it's going to be forever. T won't be.
I'm really worried about that.
T won't be a villain. Lady Whistledown is not a villain. So if they make Penelope a villain, they did it wrong. But I know I was flipping through it for quotes because, like, and then I was like, I really want to reread this. I might do it. But
I think I might reread it too because I don't really remember much about what happened because I read it so long ago and my memory is like.
Yeah. Well, I'd put all, like, when I reread these the last time, I like annotated my copies too. And so that was so much fun. And now I have like my stickers from Brie. So I might annotate it again, but I don't know. But anyway, I'm super excited. If we all have a lot to say. What was that?
I was sitting in a way so you can see my messy house. It's fine.
I literally put it in one place so that my books hide everything else over there. So anyway, well, this was fun time.
Thanks so much, everybody, and we'll see you next month.